then the two will be in sync and will enter into the terminal count.
Tank. That was simultaneous with the SRV cycle test going on. The pressure got a little higher than we intended it to, but the flume-on test took the appropriate action to bring the tank back down. We have no concerns for vehicle health or proceeding with today's operation. We'll document on NDR to address corrective action in the future and recommend proceeding.
LC concurs. LD?
LD concurs.
LC PNE2.
Go PNE2.
LH2 conditioning complete.
Roger.
And some good news there. They were just hearing from the mission control that they have cleared the issue. They have cleared the issue with the liquid hydrogen system on the Centaur upper stage. The planned work was approved by the launch director, and they are moving back to proceeding with liquid hydrogen top-off. Let's listen in to Brian Cizik with weather.
We're also monitoring the winds at the ground level as well. So here's why we're no-go for the cumulus cloud roll. Notice these showers that are off the coast here. Now, they're not directly over the launch pad, which is about right here, but because they're fairly tall, they could hold a charge. And actually, if they get to a certain level, the minus 20 Celsius level, it's a 10 nautical mile standoff from the launch pad and the flight path. So that's likely what we're dealing with here. These are pretty tall showers. So the launch weather team is monitoring this. We're watching the motion here. So notice that they are pushing to the south and maybe a little bit to the east. So if we could get these to push a little bit farther to the east and get outside of that 10 nautical mile range, we could potentially clear that cumulus cloud roll. Now, we're also watching some more showers that are developing farther to the north. Now, again, they are look like they're trying to push a little bit farther to the east. But again, the team will be monitoring these other showers that are starting to come in from the north. And then if we switch to winds, this is the other weather factor that we're monitoring here tonight. So notice the red numbers here. So that is the gusts right along these our weather towers here at the Cape and KSC. We're monitoring the wind. So notice that the gusts are in the low to mid 30s. We're seeing some peaks miles per hour. So again, we're going to need some of those gusts to come down in addition to the showers pushing a little bit farther away from the launch pad. So those are the two factors. It does look like it is improving marginally as we go towards the end of the window. So again, the POV currently 80% at the opening of the window, but as we push later, it does look like it improves a little bit. So that's what the team's going to be watching. Again, as I mentioned, if we can find a gap in the weather and if we could find some good conditions, the launch weather team will give that go call. So guys, back to you.
The sounds as well as seeing the sights. You get a nice pad level view in front of some of the tanks there here at Space Launch Complex 41. If this weren't a launch that we were trying to get off the ground here, you could appreciate the nice sunset peeking through the clouds here from this perspective. However, as we were hearing from Brian, the cumulus cloud rule still hanging around. At one point, it was expected to clear as a potential watch item by the time we hit the 8 o'clock hour. Just now, 7 o'clock here. This was the original liftoff time for this Kuiper 1 mission, Kuiper Atlas 1, depending on whether you're talking from ULA's nomenclature or from Amazon's. I want to go actually back out to the turn basin shot if we can for just a second. Draw your attention to one of the things that Brian was mentioning. He said, and was showing you on the radar, that the storms were pushing off, moving towards the south and slightly to the east, but you can see there's still quite a bit of cloud cover hanging around right now as the systems move through, and those storms need to get about 10 nautical miles away from the pad for this to not be an impact to launch. Obviously, they're also considering the strong winds as a factor here for whether or not they'll be able to get this Atlas off the ground today or not. If, when all is said and done, they do decide that today is just not the day to fly, they do have another launch opportunity coming up tomorrow, and the weather, as the most recent published launch weather forecast shows, significantly better, with just a 10% chance of violating weather conditions, or put another way, 90% go, and the winds in a 24-hour turnaround scenario are trending between 10 to 15 knots. As we continue to roll through the countdown, I want to thank the now more than 11,000 of you who are watching with us live. Really appreciate you being here with us on this Atlas, hopefully, launch evening. If you haven't already, you could do us a big solid just by clicking that like button. Allows more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage. Let the YouTube algorithm do its thing. Also want to thank a few folks for your support here in the live chat. Want to welcome new channel member CK joining us with membership at the PAL leader level. Welcome aboard, CK. We're glad to have you with us. Also want to thank Mitchell Wilbur, one of our previously existing channel members as well, for a very generous $50 super chat. Really appreciate that, Mitchell. Thank you so much for supporting us at that level and for the kind words. Says Will is the best. And his Praetorian Guard keeping it clean, Callistia Lee, Astro Joe, Jeff, and Rick, quite the team. And I would have to concur with that. Our moderators help make this live coverage as wonderful as it is. and a good experience for all of you joining with us live. And last for now, certainly not least, I want to thank Pierce Mama for a also very generous $20 super chat saying, don't want no scrub. You're here to that. Want to take a look now, as a number of folks have been asking about the trajectory for this mission here. United Launch Alliance does the courtesy for those in the public of posting not just the trajectory, but also giving you an idea of when you should be able to see this rocket as it makes its ascent. So if you look at those ever expanding circles that are numbered 1, obviously closest to the pad, and then 2, 3, so on and so forth, that's the timing with which you should be able to see, again, assuming that you're in clear conditions where you are along the east coast of the United States. You can see the breakdown on the left-hand side about how long post-liftoff it'll be before the rocket is potentially visible in your neck of the woods. Time now just about L minus 34 minutes. ULA is bringing in the mission audio loop. Current T0 time exists now of 7:40. As a reminder for those who may just be joining live or not as familiar with Atlas rockets, unlike with a SpaceX Falcon 9 or a Falcon Heavy potentially, there will not be an attempt to recover the first stage booster following liftoff and stage separation. That's not to say that United Launch Alliance isn't working towards a model of reusability, but that won't be the case for the Atlas line of rockets, which are getting ready to ride off into the sunset. There are just a finite number of them left. 8 of them will be used by Amazon for its Project Kuiper satellite constellation, including the one that you see here on your screen, which hopefully, weather permitting, will be able to launch in just about 27.5 minutes. There are also 6 other Atlas rockets that have been reserved for flights of Boeing's Starliner spacecraft up to the International Space Station as part of NASA's Commercial Crew program. And then the last Atlas rocket is reserved for Viasat with one of its Viasat 3 satellites. launch weather officers keep a very close eye out for anvil clouds that are in the vicinity of the pad, and especially if they are moving towards the launch pad around the time of a planned launch. And as you just heard, a new T0 has been called for by the launch team there at the ASOC.
LC, ALC.
The
Countdown clock has been set for new T0 of 0022
Roger. All right, for the team, we're at L minus 37 minutes.
The ASOC is the Advanced Space Flight Operations Center. It's where ULA runs its Atlas and Vulcan countdown operations from.
LCRC, that one.
RC.
Roger, the new T000:22 has been coordinated approved by the range.
Roger.
From United Launch Alliance to take a look at the launch timeline, which we'll walk through here in just a little bit. You can see the launch timeline cuts off at Centaur first main engine cutoff, or MECO 1, about 18 minutes, 14 seconds into flight. And so we don't expect to see the Kuiper satellites on this mission today or whenever ULA is able to launch this mission, weather permitting. Hopefully following the deployment of this first batch of Kuiper satellites, once the signal is acquired, checkouts are performed, Amazon will be willing to release some imagery of the Kuiper satellites and give folks more of an idea of what they look like. We also don't have a firm idea of how many satellites can go on all of the other launch providers beyond ULA. Thankfully, with our conversations that we've had with ULA President and CEO Tori Bruno in a variety of settings, he's described the Atlas rocket as being able to carry 27 Kuiper satellites, and the Vulcan rocket capable of carrying 45 Kuiper satellites into low Earth orbit. However, we don't know what the number is for the New Glenn, for Falcon 9, or for the Ariane 6. That's still something that hopefully Amazon will clarify at some point in the future. We've reached out asking for that information, and that request for information was not granted by Amazon at this point. A lot of folks about a lot of really cool things that are happening on the space front. And this is a look at the launch leadership team, the Mission Director Center, as you can see denoted in the bottom left-hand corner of this big box, as they are hoping to find some clearance with the weather here. The outlook still looking not so good, if I may make an 8-ball reference, or a Magic 8-ball reference, I should say. If the weather doesn't clear, we'll have to chalk it up to another Magic 8-ball message, which is try again later. And if that is the case, weather does look significantly better in a 24-hour turnaround scenario. So we will keep you posted for any additional updates to the T0 as the case may be. Once all is said and done, the Project Kuiper satellite internet constellation will
This is
consist
Atlas Mission
of
Control at T-minus
3,232 satellites in low Earth orbit, as well as a quite expansive ground infrastructure that extends across the globe. In addition to just general consumer availability for the Kuiper constellation once it is available, Amazon is also interested in targeting government contracts that will need more proprietary access to the Kuiper constellation using the same satellites but for different more sensitive purposes. And that is run through a business that is technically a different division of Amazon, a different subsidiary. It's called Kuiper Government Solutions, LLC. What the Kuiper Government Solutions division would be able to offer, more similar to what would be available, say, using the Starshield satellites that are developed by SpaceX in partnership with Northrop Grumman, according to reporting, that are distinct and different from the Starlink satellite constellation. As we're cruising towards 32 minutes on the L minus clock, want to thank the about 14,000 and a half of you that are joining with us live this evening, hoping that things trend in a better direction, that we can get a launch of the Atlas V rocket this evening. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking the like button. Sharing the stream allows more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage tonight. Also want to thank a few folks in the live chat as well for your support this evening. Our thanks to NYL3 for a $5 super chat, who says, excellent launch videos. Keep them coming. We certainly intend to do so, assuming that we're able to get a launch tonight. Channel member and moderator Rick Donner with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Rick. Glad to see you out of the hospital. Hope you're doing much better. Rick says, Will, enjoy the Springs, referring to Colorado Springs. I retired out of Fort Carson there, and my uncle is buried at the Academy. Beautiful place. That's a very cool connection you have to this area. It's actually my first time in Colorado Springs, so very much enjoying seeing the Space Symposium now in its 40th year. Callistia Lee with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Callistia, for super chat at that level. Says donation to Will's Halls and Tea Fund. Hoping you're having fun at the symposium. And yes, it has been quite enjoyable. I pause just because while there is a lot to see and to do here at the symposium, there's also a lot to see and do here at the symposium. So it's kind of hard to really take in everything. I think I've seen at least briefly in passing all of the exhibitor booths, but it's hard to find time to talk to even, I'd say, a majority of the exhibitors that are here. But still got another full day left of the conference tomorrow, so hoping to make at least a couple more laps before all is said and done. If you happen to be here at the symposium and see me cruising about, be sure to say hi. It's always great to meet folks out and about in the community. I also want to thank channel member Joe Piano with a $20 super chat as well. Appreciate that support at that level, Joe, who simply says, Baseline now rocks. Thank you for the kind words. Now less than 30 minutes to the planned T0, and we'll have to wait and see if we've got a new T0 coming our way. Given the weather trending as it is, don't fall out of your chair with shock if you're sitting down and catch a now coming up on L minus 20 minutes here in just less than 30 seconds. We would expect there to be another weather briefing coming shortly after we pass the 20-minute point in time. Of course, if that is another on-camera briefing by Launch Weather Officer Brian Sizik, we'll bring that to you live as it happens. One of the nifty exhibits that is here at the Space Symposium, actually concerning not Jupiter, but another one of the gas giants and its moons, Titan. The Dragonfly rotocopter mission that is being developed and partly by Lockheed, partly by NASA through the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab. That's looking to launch in 2027, I believe. Got my dates straight. And that is launching on a Falcon Heavy rocket. As you just heard, we are unfortunately scrubbed for tonight. Can't say it was a surprising outcome given the challenge that has been presented to ULA throughout the course of the evening with those persistent offshore showers that just wouldn't budge with enough relief to allow the launch to proceed. As you heard from the launch team, they are going through the process of detanking and safing the rocket. They're looking at potential launch opportunities coming up in the future. If they are able to launch tomorrow, though, the weather does look dramatically better. It was forecast to be 90% chance of favorable weather Thursday evening, with just the cumulus cloud rule coming into effect. Reading from the launch mission forecast. The high pressure in the area would be limiting the development of showers in the area. With a scrub call here, ULA is looking for future launch opportunities. As I mentioned, weather tomorrow, if that were an option, or if that is an option, I should say,